Oh,
Okay, yesterday we saw that the lashon of the Mishnah on was chafti b'tashlume nisko, and the word tashlume is extra. So we said chafti means tashlume nisko, that you have to be mashlim the nezek. In other words, when one does damage, you could think like we would normally think, that you just replace totally exactly what you broke. So your car gets damaged, so it's totaled. So you don't go ahead and put the car back together again. You pay a new car. So it said that's not what it says in the Torah. It says chafti tashlume nisko, and we learned that the masik is mashlam. He completes whatever the loss was, but he doesn't replace it. And we had 3 psukim. We had one pasuk was maka behema nefesh yishalmenu. If a man hits a behema, then we had another shot by a shomer, that if you bring if the death happens to the animal, you view ate at treifa, and we said at treifa until the treifa, but not including the treifa, still in the rishus of the person who trusts you to watch it. And finally, we had by negicha of a shar, and kill the shar, that v'hameis yelo, that the shar stays but in nizik, and the mazik makes the difference. Okay, so we have 3 places that we made srikas to all 3. So we're up to Yud Amid base, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom. Amalei Rav Kahana l'Rav said l'Rava. Amalei Rav Kahana l'Rava. Ela taima. The reason why the nizik keeps the nevela, and the masik and the masik makes up the difference is the kasser rachmana v'meis yelo, that the Torah writes, and the meis shall belong to the nizik. Mashma lav hachi, without the pasuk havamina nevela the masik have. I would think that the nevela goes to the masik. Hashta islay lididei kama treifles yahavlei the amamar yoshev l'rabbi shavakesa afilu subin didei mi boy. In other words, if he would go ahead, fellas, and he didn't have any karka, or he wanted to pay metalton, could he plate a few carcasses, animal carcasses? We said, yeah. We said subin it's anything that's, you go to you get a few animal carcasses, you go to McDonald's and you'll sell it at McDonald's, and they'll make meat out of it. They'll make burgers out of it, right? So you can always sell it. So why do I need a pasuk to tell me that it stays by the nizik? If the mazik had it, the mazik would be able to go ahead without the pasuk. What would I say? It belongs to the mazik. The masik is going to end up by the nisik anyway. The masik will give it to me, Torah's tashlumin. He'll give it over to him. Ella, it must be lepchas nevela. Why does it come to teach me that not only does the nisik keep it, however, the amount that it goes down from the time of the nizik to the time of the hamad bedin, the loss is sustained by the nizik. The loss is sustained by the person who was damaged. So at the time, if you would have sold it exactly after it was killed, it would be worth $500. And by the time you get the Hamada Bedin and get a valuation, it's $400. That $100 loss is sustained by the nizik. That's what's called pchas nevela, that the nevela gets less. Tanoi, he says, let us say pchas nevela tanoi. Let us say that pchas nevela, that the sustainment of the nevela going down is machlokas tanoim. The Tanya, the pasuk says, im taraf yitarif yiviyeu aid. The pasuk says you aid hatreifa. We darshan yiviyeu aid ad yavi aidim shenifra ba'aynis upata. So the word aid will play on words. It will say aid means aidim. Bring aidim that you are Shem Esacha. This pasuk was written by Shem Esacha. A Shem Esacha is pata ba'ayinsin. If an accident would happen to the animal, the Shem Esacha would be pata. So just bring an aid and you're pata. Not now. A pchas nevela, nothing to do with pchas nevela. It's a din in shaimrim. You're not even telling me a din in nizik. Abishalai man, no. Yavi eduda lebezdin. Bring the carcass to bezdin. Okay. Now my lab b'hakamifli the masavar. Abishal's of the opinion pchas nevela the nizik. Abishal, who used the pasuk to teach me that the nizik is involved with it, bringing it to the bezdin. In other words, it must be that why would the nizik have to bring it to bezdin? Because it's his best interest to bring it to Bezdin. He's the one to be taking the loss if he doesn't bring it to Bezdin, right? If he doesn't bring it to Bezdin, he's going to be the one taking the loss. So therefore, Abishal, who said that he used the pasuk for Yavi Edu to Bezdin, bring it to Bezdin, it must be speaking because he's going to take the loss. So Pchas Nevela is the Nizik. Umasav and the Chachamim who said no, who said it wasn't speaking about that at all. It was speaking simply about what? Being aided that what had happened by this, because it must be Chas Nevela is the Mazik. Umasov the Mazik have. So let's suggest that this din of Chas Nevela, the Nizik the Mazik, in fact, is Machloikas Tanoim Abishol and Chachamim. The Gemara rejects that. It says loy. The Kuli Alma the Nizik. Everyone is of the opinion that it's of the Nizik. Even the Chachamim. The Hacha b'Tayreach Nevela Kamifliki. Machloikis is not in who takes the loss. Machloikis is who has to transport it. Machloikis is who has to transport it. Right. And meaning, according to the Chachamim, it's up to the Masik to bring it. According to the Abishol, you'll be do the best, and it's up to the Nizik to bring it. So the question is, who's the one who has to go ahead and transport it, right? According to the Tanakhama, it's the Masik. According to Abishol, it's the Nizik. Says the Gemara, Tanya Acherim Moimrim. This is a proof, guys. Tanya is Nichusa. Acherim Moimrim. Menayin Shal Bala Bar Lahalos Sharmi Boy, right? How do you know it's up to the Bala Bar, the Masik, to bring the shor out of the bar? Hamad Leimar Kesef Yoshev Lebolov VeHaMeis VeHaMeis Yeloi Kesef. He should return to the Baal and the mace, and he goes ahead and he returns the mace. In other words, the play on words again. It's VeHaMeis Yelo. We're putting the period after the word Kesef Yoshev Lebolov VeHaMeis. The Masik has to return the Kesef to the Bolov, and who else does he have to return the mace? Because it's upon him to go ahead and bring the mace out of the bar, right? So Abishol holds it's on the Masik, right? And Yobi and Abishol holds on the Masik. Yobi do the Bezdin, and the Tanakhama holds the Nisik, right? Rashi says, "B'terech nevela leviim mimakam shemesa sham lemakam shayisham Abishol sava ala Masiku," and the raya is from the pasuk Kesef Yoshev Lebolov VeHaMeis, that even the mace that Yoshev Lebolov you should return to what? Okay, says the Gemara, a very svardik conversation. Says the Amalei Abai L'Rava, Hai Tarech Nevela Hechidami. This tircha of getting this carcass out of the pit. What are we speaking about? Ilema Devivira Shavi Zuza. If in the pit a person is willing to pay a zuz for it, V'agu the Shava Arba, and it's out of the pit 4. So Ki Tarach, when the Masik is Tareach, but in Afshe Tarach, he's doing it for himself, because as a result, in other words, he's going to go ahead and he's going to get 4 times the value. So we said Rabbi Tabaya Loit Tzricha, the Bebira Shav Yesusa, Vaguda Nami Shav Yesusa. The value is the same. It's worth the same in the pit as it is on the outside. Is it true there's such a case? Says Ma'in. The army inshi Kishurad Bimasa Bezusa, a beam in the city is Kishura Bidabra Bezusa. I don't know why they don't count it to transportation. It could be speaking about the innate value of the carcass. In other words, let's say you go ahead and you order wine. How much did the wine cost you? The wine cost you $70 a bottle. Okay, you get free shipping is great. You don't get free shipping. But the bottle, it's $70 a bottle. You may end up spending $80, including the shipping and handling, right? But again, it's $70 a bottle. So the zuz over here, we're looking at the intrinsic value of the shar. The value of the shar is a zuz. So therefore, it's the same. And even if it's missing, people say that's its value, even if it's missing the transportation. Okay, the Gemara now is going to say a din. Our din is that by Nezikin, what do we do, guys? By Nezikin, we evaluate. What do we evaluate? How much is it worth? And Yishalmena, Atikri Yishalmena El Yashli Mena. You're going to go ahead and make up the difference. That's called shaman. In other words, you evaluate, and then the mazik makes up the difference. Amar Shmuel says Shmuel, ain't shaman, loy leganif, v'loy legazlan. Elo Nezikin. You don't evaluate, not for the ganif, not for the gazlin, only Nezikin. What does that mean? Let's see Rashi. Amar Shmuel, minig dayanim hu, the minig of dayanim is that what? Shein shaman loy leganif, loy legazlin, sheim gonav v'gazl behema. If a person would steal, or hey behema, or kalim, benifchasu etzloy, and they become worth less by him. Ain't shaman an avela v'hashvarim lebailim. Let's say the animal died. We don't expect the ganav to return a dead animal and add onto it. He has to return a new animal. We don't ask him to go ahead and evaluate how much you can get for the broken kli and he makes up the difference, right? This is din in Nezikin. By Ganef and Goslin, you have to go ahead and replace it in total. You have to replace it in total. Ain't shomen on the veil of a shvarim l'bailim sheyachzer Ganef hapchas el yishalim behema v'kelim ma'ulim. They pay back a fine animal and kelim v'ashvarim shalom to keep the shvarim. So this explains why this statement of Shmuel is very good. We just did a sugya of Nezikin. This whole sugya of Nezikin teaches us what? That there's no if you do damage, the masik doesn't have to replace the item; he just has to replace the worth. As long as the nizik can sell whatever the damaged item was for X amount, it's up to the masik to be mashlim that amount that it was worth initially before the damage. Mashenke by Ganef for Goslin, you're going to go ahead and now we have the Omer Ani, says the Gemara, and the Ani Omer, and I say, see, Amar Shmuel, you see, it's a very funny thing, guys. Why did Rashi say that minig hadayonim, right? Guys, all of a sudden, Shmuel's talking and says minig hadayonim. Why did Rashi say that? Because obviously Shmuel wasn't talking yet. Amar Shmuel ain't Shmuel Ganef le'legasin elam nezikin. V'ani Omer, and I say, who's I? Shmuel. So in other words, it must have been someone speaking beforehand. Right? Who was the other people? Minig hadayonim was people beforehand. Okay, according to the Shiltis Ravachai, it was his father speaking. But even a shoyel. Now, even a shoyel, what? Guys, what's a shoyel? You go ahead, you borrow something. A shoyel is chayav what? B'geneva, ba'aveda, u'ba'oinsin. In other words, it's in your rishus totally. So, af b'shoyel can mean one of two things. It can mean shol is like nizikin, and you are shaman, or it can be like Ganef Goslin and ain't shaman, right? Says the Gemara of Abba Moidali, Ibaylahu Hachikama, Aflashol Shaman, the Abba Moidali, Idil Hachikama, Viniyoima Aflashol ain't shaman, Abba Moidali. Okay, and we'll see it in a second. Okay, let's see a Taisus over here. Taisus explains beautifully, guys, the Svara, why ain't shaman. It's nice Taisus. The fourth Taisus down. Ain't shaman, Loila Ganef, Loila Goslin, Pirsha countries, ain't shaman, and Hanavela Vashvarim. If the animal dies or the keli breaks, you don't go ahead and evaluate them. Lebailim sheyachs, but sheyachs aganav abchas, that the ganav makes up the difference. Elishalim behemoth shlema, a complete new animal, v'kelim ulim, and a complete new kli. V'ashvarim shaloy, and the ganav the gazlan, they keep the broken pieces. V'afagav the kaimelon yoshev l'rabbi shavakesed v'afilu subin. Right, guys, we said what? We said let's go back to earlier Masechta. Ganav the gazlan, one of the others nezikin. Remember 13? Rav Chia 24. Ganef Goslin. They pay meitav, right? Yes. So therefore, what? They pay meitav. They should be able to pay yashiv labashav kesed afilu subin. Yeah. Says the Gemara. Ganef Goslin shiny. They're different. Mishum dechsiv asher gazal. But the heishiv is hagzel asher gazal. Kein shegazal. Right. You have to go ahead and return in the condition like it was when you stole it. Exeris lekosef. Hilkat tzarch lahachzer agzela. Right. Oydemeha. V'loy subin. V'chein mashma yushalmi. Minayin shein sham and loy leganef loy legazlin. Amravav mamamol chayim shnayim mishalim. By Ganef it says chayim shnayim mishalim. V'loy mesim. Pay back while alive and not what? Play on words and not dead. So you don't pay back the nevela. You don't pay back the dead kli. Right. You pay back. Okay. Ad kedon geneva gezelim minayin. Amravav mamamol beheshav agzela shegazel kasher gazel. Behind the time of the Ganef Goslin, and what's the reason, guys? The Ganef Goslin koinem miyad. In other words, when a Ganef steals from you in a certain way, it belongs to him. He's miyad, he's miyayish, but yish by not. It's in his jurisdiction. So when it breaks, it's breaking in his jurisdiction. So since he's kind of it, really he has to return what? Something totally to you. Mashenkin, a nizik, a regular case of nizik and masik, he didn't make a kinyan. His shor went ahead and killed your shor. Where was the Kinyan? So it always remained by him. So you just have to make up the difference. Vashem Ganef Goslin, when it went into your jurisdiction and then got damaged, right? Then got broken. So it's like it's his thing breaking. So once it was his already, it's not yours. He has to return to you a new thing. Aval mazik lo nischayev ela k'moshe hizik. Behind the time of the madiyama af l'shoyel. And this is the reason that a shoyel is like a Ganef Goslin. Why? The kiv and the chayiv ba'oinsin. Since he's chayiv ba'oinsin, Nimsa shekanu mishosh v'yitzib miyad bailim. He's kind of from the time he leaves the ozushus. V'adamu nischayev k'morgana v'gazlan. In other words, a shoyel, as opposed to a shoyim is watching it, doesn't have usage from it, but a shoyel is able to use it. So he's to the extent he's able to use it, he's chayiv ba'insin. So it's his chayiv if something happens to it, right? Annoyance happens to it. So it's more his than not. And therefore, the Mandiyamu says that by shoyel also ain't shaman, but the shoyel would have to return something new, right? Because he's similar to Gana for Gazlan. So we have Shmuel's din. Shmuel's the Gana for Gazlan ain't shaman. We have the reason it says even though what you can return subin for mizikin and so as long as it's shava kesef, you should be able to return it. We have a gezeres a kasef that you don't, right? Asher gozal. Kain shegazal, Chaim Shnayim Mishalim Yushalmin, Chaim V'loy Mesim, and entices off as a svara because Gan V'Gazlin, it's already he's kind of like it's his, and that would explain why a shoyel it's a shtick like his, he can use it, and therefore he's Chayiv Ba'insin, Memela ain't shomim for him as well. So the Gemara wanted to know. I jumped the gun. That's according to the opinion that it's in it. So we want to know is a shoyel like a Gan for Gazlin or not like a Gan for Gazlin? That's the question. Now we come to the place of the Shiloh. Tashma. The who Gavri, this was this individual, the Shoyal Nagra Mechavre, he borrowed an axe from his friend, and Tavra and the axe broke. I guess it must have broke without Mesamach Masulacha, because if it broke while using, you'd be part of it. So it broke. Also, Kamei Derav. Now here's the question. You can get, let's say for the broken axe, you can get it's $100 new, $10. Does he pay 90 or does he have to give him a new axe? So they came in front of Rav, Amalei Zil Shlim Nagra Me'alya. Go ahead, Ryan, and pay a good axe. So what do you see? Shmamina ain't shomim. You right that you ain't shomim that like Gana for Gazlin because you're paying a whole total new thing. You're not making up the difference. Is that the din that you have to give a new axe? The shosik and you remain silent. Why do you remain silent? Mashma that you're learning that he didn't know what the answer. Shmamina shomim. Okay, so that's the way you wanted to learn. There's two ways to learn. Rav was machmir and not being machmir. Itmar Ulam Rabbalaza Shomim Legana for Gazlin. You do evaluate for. He argues on Shmuel. He says even Gana for Gazlin you would evaluate no different than the Zikin, right? Same thing. You would just have to make up the difference. Papa Ami ain't shoymim. The hilchas halacha is ain't shoymim loy Legana loy Legazlin. You're not shoymim not to a Gana and not to a Gazlin. They would have to give you back a new, the same thing they stole. Avol shoyel shoymim kid the Rav Kahana Ravasi, and Shmuel and the shoyel you would be shoymim like Rav Kahana Ravasi, and Rav remains silent. So obviously we're going with the Rav Kahana Ravasi that a shoyel is no different than a regular mazik, and therefore if in his jurisdiction the things that you entrusted him to watch breaks, you don't have to. He would not have to give you back a totally new thing. He'd be able to make up the difference, whatever the broken object is worth, plus. Okay. Shayel, I said.
You said you gave him to watch.
Okay, Shayel. Shayel. Now, this last statement, guys, was in the name of what? Of Amma Ula Amr Rabbalazar, right? So now we're going to get all the places in Shas where Ula said it in Rabbalaz. This is classic Gemara. Total digression. Total digression. Why? And the common denominator is these are all statements that Shmuel said in the name of Ula said to Rabbalaz. Okay, now a little background information for the next piece of Gemara. It requires a little hakdama. Okay. Ashilya is a placenta. Is a placenta. If a woman gives birth to a male, right? She's tamei for 7 days. This is if she gives birth to a female, she's tamei for 14 days. At the end of those days, she's tahar. Even if she sees blood, she's tahar. And then she counts 33 for a male and 66. Right now, all we need is the beginning stage. Okay, the beginning stage. That's if she gives birth. Now, sometimes she gives birth, but you're not sure if she gave birth. If you have this shilya come out, the question is, was there a child in it or not? Was there a child that was disintegrated or not? If there was a child disintegrated, we're going to have to be machmir, and she'll have to keep 14 days of tumah. That any tyrus that she touched in those 14 days would be tummy, because we have to take into account the fact that that perhaps there was a girl, and okay, so that's the halach of a shilya again. So if a shilya comes out, and we know that a shilya is a sign of a baby, but there's no baby because it was nimuach, it was mush. You'd have to keep the tumah v'taira, at least that's to keep the first 14 days of tumah. Now, there's a shayla whether a shilya has a child or doesn't have a child. So, if you hold ein miktzah shilya b'loy vlad, there's no shilya that partially comes out that doesn't have a child in it, you only have one suffix. What's the suffix? No, male or female. Okay, that seems to be okay. The suffix is whether there was a leda or not. In other words, in order to have a birth, right? Yeah, in order to have a birth, you need roiv of the child to come out. You need, in other words, if I could have a shilya that is just a shilya without a child, then there's no birth, right? But if you hold as ein mixed shilya b'loy vlad, you know for sure there was a birth. So watch. If the woman goes ahead and miscarries and gives out the shilya, there's only one suffix, right? What's the suffix? Was there? I know that there definitely was a vlad in there. The only suffix is was it considered a leda or not? Was it roiv of the baby or not roiv of the baby? That's the shaila. Roiv of the baby or not roiv of the baby? Was the shaila roiv of the baby or not roiv of the baby? If it's possible that yesh shilya mix a shilya b'loy vlad, then she's tahar al svek sveka. What's the svek sveka? One, maybe there wasn't a vlad at all, and two, even if there was a vlad, maybe it wasn't a majority. Okay, so this is the din of one of shilya. Now there's a din again. Now there's another din of ben pikua. Ben pikua is if you shecht a mother and you find an animal, obviously, and you find the baby inside. The baby doesn't need a shechita. If, however, the baby puts out part of the area what it put out, it doesn't matter. So we're going to see in Behema Makasha in the fourth parak in Masech Chulin, if an animal gives out a hand, right, and then gives birth, you shech the animal. That hand is you can't eat that hand. You'd have to cut it off. The hand is not permitted, right? Obviously, it's not permitted. So in the case of the animal kingdom, right, l'chayr, you also have the shaila of mixed shilya b'loy vlad or not. If a shilya comes out and a mixed shilya b'loy vlad and it goes back in, so you won't be able to eat the shilya. Why? Because it's considered born already. Good. Says the Gemara with that information. Let's see what we got.
The next kid, right?
What?
It's a shadow pidyon ben also, the next kid, right?
I don't think we're worried about pidyon ben. We're just worried about again. We're worried about again. If she miscarries, you may have a problem anyway. Pidyon ben, so that's a problem anyway. But this is speaking about an animal. Says the Gemara. Shilya sheyatzla miktsasa b'yom rishon u'miktsasa b'yom sheni. Okay, it comes out in parts, part 1 and part 2, day 1 and day 2. So, it comes out on a Sunday and a Monday. They're a human being. Minayin la, moinin la min harishon. We start counting the days of Tumah from day 1. In other words, so if she touched Tyrus on day 1, they would be Tameh. Of course, we'll say that what? She gave birth, and she's Tameh Yoledes. So she, in our scenario, she has to be tummy for 14 days because maybe it was a girl, right? And we're going to say that if she touched any tyrus on that Sunday, we'll take into account maybe she was a yoledes. If she's yoledes, she's tamei, and therefore the tyrus that she touched is tamei. Amalei Rava, my daitcha, says Rava to Ula in the name of Rabbi Lazar. What's your das? Lechumra, that you're being machmir? Chumra diasalate kulahu. Why? To come tyrus lamei rishon. You're going to be mitayah her 2 weeks in 2 weeks. In other words, she'll be Torah a day earlier. If you're telling me she's Tameh on Sunday, so she's going to, again, 14 days, she's going to be Tameh a day earlier. If you start counting from Monday, she's going to be Tameh a day later. So it's a chumrah, it's a chumrah that comes to a kula. Elama Rava, lachish chaysheshes, we're going to be chayish that maybe she gave birth from Sunday, But manya, but we won't start counting till Monday. El Sheni. We won't start counting till Sheni. Good. So now, why would be chayish, guys, outside? Why would be chayish that what she's tame from Sunday? Because she gave out it's a mitzvah shilya, the a mitzvah shilya below Vlad. So our only suffix is roif. Was it a roif or not? But for sure there was a baby in there. Ein mitzvah shilya below Vlad. We know there was a piece of an embryo in that, a fetus in that placenta. There was something there. And now my only shayla is what? Was it majority or not? My kamash v'lon the ein mitzvah shilya below Vlad. From the fact that you're chayish, it must be what? Ein mitzvah shilya below Vlad. Says the Gemara, why would you need to tell me this? Tanina, we learned it. Shilya sheyatza. Now, this is by a ben pekur. This is by an animal. Shilya sheyatza miktsasa, a shilya that came out partially. Asura ba'achila. It's asa ba'achila. Because why? Maybe what? It was considered born. Simin vla be'isha, simin vla be'behema. Now, so pirish. What happened is over here. The shilya came out. It goes back in. You go ahead. You shech the mother. And you find the shilya inside, you can't eat it. Why? Because once it's yotzef and mechitza, you don't say it halacha ben pekua. So why do you have to tell me the same din twice? In other words, this is a din by animal. A mitzvah shilya b'lei vlad. The mitzvah shilya came out, it went back in. Let's be chayish that it was a leda. If it was a leda, the shechita can't matter it. So you told me the same din by a human being and by an animal. Fred the Gemara, why do you have to? And for the Gemara, if that's a mission in Chulin, in other words, I don't need you, Rav Ula, in Shmuel, and Rava Amaroyim going ahead telling me Atanaik Tikadin. This is a Mishnah in Behema Makasha. Imastis Navamina, I would think on the base, I would think the Yesh Mikzah Shilya B'lai Vlad. Really, there is a Mikzah Shilya B'lai Vlad. So why didn't you matter it? And the Gezerah Mikzah Satukula. In other words, what am I worried about? When the shilya came out, maybe it wasn't miktsas, maybe it was the whole thing and it went back in. Guys, the animal, when the shilya came out and went back in, maybe I'm not worried about what? About birth on miktsas. What I'm worried about, it wasn't miktsas. What I'm worried about, it was the total thing. And by the total thing, of course, it's what? A baby. There's no shaila by a whole thing. By a whole thing, for sure, it's a birth. So, and therefore you can't eat it. So had you just told me the Mishnah in Chulin, I would have said, you know what? The reason why you can't eat it, really, yesh mitzvah shilya b'loi vlad. Why can't I eat it? Why does it become mutter from the shlita of the mother? Because I'm chayish that maybe it wasn't partially it came out, maybe the whole thing came out and reverted and went back in. Mashenka by Isha, where part is coming out on Sunday and part is coming out on Monday, so you know it's a part, and you're starting to be chayish for tumah on Sunday. It must be why? Because ein mitzvah shilya b'loi vlad. Good. Now that's the whole reason we brought this in is why? Because Amar Ula, Amar Rebbe Laza. Amar Ula, Amar Rebbe Laza. Bechar shenitraf b'soich lamed yoim. A bechar that was nitraf within 30 days. Now we notice it didn't pidyon abeni after 30 days. Okay, so now this bechar, according to Rashi, died within 30 days. Ain't poidin I say. You're not poid it. In other words, Rashi says you might think that had it lived, right? You'd have to be poider it, so you have to be poider it now. Kamashmal, you don't. Says Tosfos, it's speaking that the lashon nitraf that it showed shimanim of treifa, right? Rabbi Tam says shenitraf hainu shenasa treifa. The baby became a treifa, so it's not dead. It's not dead baby. It's a treifa baby. You know, it's a baby that has a wound in an internal organ. So therefore, you might think you have to be paida. So Tani Rochama mitoch shenema it says padai sifta, the double lashon yachalaf nitraf b'tech lamed yoim, that even padai sifta b'chol makoim. Ach padai sifta. Not everyone requires what? A pigeon. Not everyone requires a pigeon. And a baby that doesn't live 30 days does not require a pigeon. And again, the reason you bring this in was because Ula Rebbe Laza. Mamish a smorgasbord of different things. Ula Rebbe Laza. Now, guys, Masechta Kedushin, that Bez Hashem, I'm going to make a siyum on tomorrow night, right? 7:30. Right? Don't miss it. 6:30 share, 7:30, 6:30 Zoom only. Share, then We'll meet up in Essen on Coney. Okay, nice menu prepared. We weren't in Masechta Kedushin, the parsha of Kinyanim. We said for different things acquired in different ways. We said, for example, a behema gasa, a heavy behema, is nikna b'mesira, you give over the reins. A behema daka, an animal that's small, you pull it into your rishus, that's mashicha. We said hagba is kind of b'chol makom. So on that, again, so what does it say? Behema gasa, niknas b'mashicha. A behema gasa is acquired by pulling it into your rishus. We didn't learn with Mashiach pulling into Rishus. We saw it with the symbolic giving over of the reins. Says the Hudama Kiaitana. Rabbi Elazar says what? Like the following Tana. Tanya, the Chachamim Moimim, Zu v'zu b'Mashiach, Saya behema gasla behema dakas b'Mashiach, Reb Shimon Zu v'zu b'Hagba, right? Zu v'zu b'Hagba. So in other words, that Rabbi Elazar said that it's Niknas b'Mashiach behema gasa. He's going according what to the Chachamim. The Chacham say Zu v'zu b'Mashiach. So you don't need Masira. You could do Mashiach as well. And Rabbi Shimon says Zu v'zu b'Hagba. Remember, we said, how do you get a heavy animal? Like an elephant or something, pill. You take something, you make it walk up on top of it. The Amma Ula Rabbi Elazar. It says Ula name Rabbi Elazar. Ha'achin shecholku. The achin, when they divide up the estate, mashalei and shamim. Whatever clothing they wear, you evaluate and put into the estate, the numbers. Umashal b'nei b'nesayim, but you're not going to mevaza the young children to come to Bezdin ain't shamim. Whatever they're wearing, they're wearing. So the adults, you would evaluate the clothing, but the children, we won't be mevaza them to come to Bezdin in order for an evaluation. You're not shamim. Sometimes even the adults, we don't go ahead and evaluate. Let's say you have a brother who behooves you that he should go ahead and be well dressed, like a GQ. The nichale de l'shtam and mili. Again, he's going to go to Bezdin. He's going to speak on your behalf. He wants to be presentable. So in that case, also in that adult in shaman, you wouldn't evaluate the clothing to throw it into the estate in order to divide up, because again, it's in your best interest that he be well dressed. Shomer shemasul shomer pater. A shomer that gives over to a shomer is pater. Let's see Rashi. Shomer go down a little bit. Shomer shemasul shomer pater. Harishain. The first one is pater. The chol oisa dinim shahaya pater. All the dinim that would be pater im haisa etzloi was by him pater nami hashta. We pater now. So in other words, let's say he's a shomer chinam. He gives it over to someone to watch, and it's stolen from the second person. He'd be pater. He'd be pater. Why? Because just like by him it would be pater, so to by the second one he's pater. And we don't say it's a case of negligent shemasr ish achad that he gave it over to another individual. Okay, so again, shomer shemasr shomer, he's a shomer, he gives it over to another shomer. I mean, just make it easy. He's a shomer chinam, guys. Shomer chinam is pater b'gnei aveda. He gives it over to another fellow. It gets stolen from the other fellow. It's lost from the other fellow. He would be bad. He'd be pater. And we don't say his act of giving it over is pshia. That's the din. Shemesh l'shem is pater. V'lo mi boy shemer chinam shemas l'shem sacher. And now you don't need to tell me a shemer chinam that gave it over to a shemer sacher. The iluya al yidish shmirasa that he went ahead and he elevated the shmira. The level of shmira has been evaluated. It says Tosfos. The iluya al yidish shmirasa ein lefarish aliyah shem nignav taxer lebailim. That if it gets stolen, you'd have to pay the bailim. The gerui geriyaloi. The hug gerui geriyaloi. This is loyefshel lefarish opinion said, because we can't go ahead when it gets worth explained this way, as we're going to see in a second. I jumped the gun. I should have waited. I should wait for a second before we do Taisus. Now, you don't need to tell me when you elevate the level of shmira. Filu shema sacha shemas l'shem chinam the hashtag gerui gar l'shmirasai. Now, guys, why don't you tell me by shema sacha? That Shem Sacha gives it to Shem Chinam and it gets stolen by the Shem Chinam, the Shem Sacha is going to be off the hook? No. He's not going to be off the hook. Nami Pata. He be Pata Shahari Masla Ben Das. Now, so therefore, it can't mean that it gets the dinim. What it means is, Taisus means, guys, is when you pay someone to watch something, you expect a high level of shmira. When a guy's not getting paid, there's a lower level of shmira. So you not only is it pata where you elevated the level of shmira, but even where you went down the level of shmira, you'd be pata. In other words, you'd be pata by, in this case, the Shem Echinam, give it to Shem Esachi, you'd be pata for Gneva Aveda. Right? What's the reason? Right? Shahari Masla Ben Das says Rabbi Loza, you gave it over to a Ben Das. It's not an act of pshia. You gave it over to a responsible human being, and that's what he says. However, Rabbi says something different. Rabbi Omar Shomer Shemasel Shomer is chayev. A shomer that gives over to other shomer is chayev. The lomi boy shomer sachel shemasel shomer chinam, where degree garlish shmira, where you put the level of shmira down. Because the person who trusted with you this can say, in other words, you could say the following: when I give it to Ruvain to watch, I trust Ruvain to make a shuas hashemim. One of the three shuas the rice is shuas hashemim that you want to pay shleya payat. You have to make that shua. Good. So I trust this guy. I don't trust the guy you gave it to. I don't trust the guy you gave it to. Now, what happens if we gave it to Chaim Kanievsky? So then you won't have this taina, right? Now there's another taina. Look at Taisus, guys. At mehim nasli b'shvua. Third Taisus in the bottom. Lefi tam zeh im hasheni nemar yosem in a rishain. If the second shomer that he gave it to is more trustworthy than the first, nearer the pata, you'd be pata, right? In my case, I just gave you, right? If you gave it over to Rav Chaim, Satzal, you'd be pata. Aval be'amafkid. The same Gemara appears in the third parak of Bab Metzia parak amafkid. Ika taima achrina. There's another taina. You know what that is? The ein ritzoini shehei piktoini bi'aracher. I don't want my pikadon to be in somebody else's shus. I gave it to you. I didn't give it to him. The ancient timing halalu shavim did not equal to muchachasam. So, guys, you know what nafkamina would be? If you hold the time as what al shvua, you'll believe with me shvua, but the other one's not. If you would give it to a person who's more trustworthy than you, then you could do it. But loy the time of ein ritzoni sheipik doni bi'aracher, I was makbid to give it to you and only you, and no matter who you give it to, you be chayiv according to Rabbi. That would be the difference between the two. So Agamara just brings in one reason, the reason of Atmehemis B'Shua, Vihu Lemnehemis B'Shua. Okay. The next case, V'Amar Ula says Ula, Amar Balaza, Hilchas HaGoyim Min Avodim. The halacha is that what? You can collect a chayiv from Avodim. Now we know that that when you collect a chayiv, there's Mishubadim, right? There's a lien on property. We know an Eved is Hukish Lakarka. So you can collect your chayiv from an Eved. Hilchas HaGoyim Min Avodim. Amar Rav Nachman L'Ula, Amar Balaza, Afilu miyasme, even from Yisraimim, if the guy died and they inherited a Eved, could you collect it from the Yisraimim? So Rabbi Elazar said, Loi minei. Ula said to Rav Nachman, only from him. From him, so what do you care about an Eved? Afilu miglima dal katfoi. From him, you can even go ahead and the shirt off his back. Dama Rava, says the Gemara, no. We made the Eved first mortgage, guys. Eved is made the first mortgage. Apoitiki. Apoitiki is the contraction of three words. Apoi tehei koi. On him tehei koi it should be. Right? Dama Rava asa avda apoitiki. If a person makes his Eved an apoitiki, meaning he's the first mortgage, umachroi ba'alchoi goy v'himeno. However, shara apoitiki, if he makes a shara apoitiki, umachroi and he says ein ba'alchoi goy v'himeno. My timer. Okay, so in other words, when you sell an Eved, a coil goes out. It was made on a Paitiki. Everyone knows the Eveds are not. Everyone knows there's a mortgage on this Eved. So the person who bought it, he's like paying. Who the Pasha al Nafshe. He was negligent himself because everyone knows that this first tib is on this Eved. So by him going ahead and buying the Eved, it's tough luck, and therefore he loses it. Mashenka by a shar, by an animal, there is no such coil out there, and therefore he couldn't have possibly known that this first. So therefore, what the Baal Chayv would not collect from him. Okay, again tomorrow 6:30 on Zoom, and the Suda is 7:30 in Essen on Coney. Anybody's interested? $40 a pop. If money is an issue, please see me.